Happy Mother's Day. What an honor it was to sit with these beautiful women and just have a chat about motherhood. I hope that as you watch this video, you are inspired, you are encouraged, you can relate in some way, and just know, as a mom, you are not alone. To all the moms out there, I just want to say, Happy Mother's Day. We appreciate you, we love you, and your hard work is never going unnoticed.
Okay, so my name is Sarai. I am going to be 32 on May 4th, May 4th. And I have three kids altogether. 2 are mine, and then I'm also a stepmom as well. I have a stepson.
So I'm Valerie. I am 30 years old, and I'm a stepmom.
My name is Vanessa. I am 26. Oh, Jacob.
And is this your only child?
This is my only baby. This is Melissa. I am 31 years old. I have a 13-year-old son, and I'm currently pregnant.
Okay, I'm Erica, and I am 29. Well, gonna be 29 in September. I'm just jumping the gun. And then I have 2 children.
You have 2 kids. Are you married?
Yes.
How long have you been married?
I've been married for going on 10 years.
So I'm Kaylee. I'm 28 years old, and I have 2 daughters. One daughter who has passed and is in heaven, and my other daughter Snow, who is 2 years old.
2 years old. You mentioned that Kendall was in heaven. Can you kind of talk about your story?
Yeah, so I got pregnant with Kendall when I was 18 years old. So I was a baby, and she had complications. So there were some birth defects that they caught pretty early on. I think I was like maybe 12 weeks. I had just gotten out of my first trimester when they discovered some fluid and some other things. So they kind of knew always that there was going to be some issues or abnormalities. I decided to kind of continue with the pregnancy and hope, things would kind of resolve. Unfortunately, it didn't, but that experience really, I still feel like that was my introduction to motherhood. I consider myself a mom at that point,
right,
because,
yeah.
I was 18 years old, I was a kid, and I had to completely change overnight to become a mom. And, unfortunately, it didn't turn out the way that I had, planned or prayed about,
right.
But it totally changed my life, and that was when I became a mom.
So how old were you? Oh, I'm sorry, not how old. I'm sorry. How many months were you when you were finding out there was a lot more complications that, could possibly...
So as the pregnancy progressed, I had to go to specialists. I had to go to Stanford, and that happened probably towards the middle of the pregnancy. So about, maybe 18 weeks, 20 weeks. I had her when I was a little over 24 weeks, so 6 months pregnant. That's when she passed, and I had to deliver her.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you remember where you were and who you were with when you were in Stanford when she passed?
I was in Natividad.
Oh, okay.
So
Do you remember the day?
Her birthday was August 12th. So yeah, so we knew that things were kind of go, and my body actually started going into preterm labor. They told me that a lot of times when there's complications, your body knows that there's something not going right inside your body, so it tries to reject it. So I was.
And you remember feeling all of that?
Yeah. So I was having contractions, and I thought they were Braxton Hicks contractions, and then I went to the hospital, and sure enough, I was dilating.
Wow. And
they, we had to make the decision, okay, we can either stop we can attempt to stop your labor pretty much, but it's not guaranteed, and if she's born right now, her lungs haven't developed yet, so she will pretty much, suffocate upon birth. So I decided to just kind of let my body do its thing, and if it was time, it was time. And so as my labor progressed, she passed away in that process.
Now, for yourself and for other moms that I'm thinking about out there that have had a similar situation, how have you coped through that?
I think there's no right or wrong way. Everyone copes and everyone grieves really different. I think for me, I've always been very vocal about it. I think it's a big part of me. She's always going to be my first child and my first daughter. So I think for me, talking about it and not not making it something like, oh, like it didn't happen, or like like, no, it did happen. Like, I
Right.
was pregnant as a teenager. She passed away, and she's my first child. Like, I just think being very open with it has really helped me cope better with it.
That's awesome.
Backstory. So I have endometriosis.
Oh, okay.
So
Can you explain what that is?
Yes.
Okay.
So it is a disease that pretty much the lining of your uterus grows outside of the uterus in different areas. It can cause extremely painful periods. It can cause infertility. It can cause a lot of issues.
Okay.
I want to say about like 20% of women have it.
Okay.
So I got diagnosed with this when I want to say I was maybe like 22 years old.
Okay.
I was having extreme pain to the point where I thought I was having appendicitis.
Mm-hmm.
And they found a cyst. Still didn't know I had endometriosis. They did surgery, and that's when they found the endometriosis. So they told me pretty early on that it may be hard for me to conceive again. So knowing that, especially with losing my first child, was always like a very scary and difficult thing to process.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because for everyone who's like on social media, I had been following Desi Perkins, and she had posted about her stuff. And I remember she had posted this around the time, like maybe, I kid you not, 2 months before I found out I was pregnant with Snow. And I was watching her video, and I was like sobbing, and I was like, you know, what if I can't? What if I have the same experience of her? Like, what if I can't get pregnant again?
Yeah.
And I remember praying that night and saying, like, God, like, if it's meant for me to be a mom, I know I will be. And if it's not, in the terms of, like, me delivering, then it's not. Like, I have no problem adopting. I have no problem fostering. So I really came, like, to peace with it. And literally 2 months after that, I was late. We weren't trying, but we weren't not trying.
Right.
I'd actually had issues with my insurance, so I had stopped taking my birth control. And literally, like, a month after I stopped taking my birth control, I got pregnant.
Wow.
And like I said, wasn't trying, wasn't not trying.
Right.
I was late, I took a test, and I was pregnant.
What's been the most challenging thing that you feel like you've experienced as a mom?
So, okay, circling back to the terrible two things. So I honestly, for me personally, every mom's different, but I enjoy the toddler stage a lot more than newborn stage. Newborn stage, like, rocked me like a hurricane. Like, I was so unprepared, and I brought this newborn home, and I was like, what do I do with this thing? Like, how do I keep it alive? How do I stay alive? So definitely newborn phase is really challenging. I think sleep deprivation is so intense.
Right.
I love my sleep.
Yes.
I'm like a 9-10 hour sleeper and a nap.
Yes.
So sleep deprivation. I think also just being so unprepared, and like no matter what anyone tells you or how they try to prepare you, you can never be prepared. So determined, like determined to breastfeed. Like I said, I gave myself like no other choice, and I think that that's really it was unfortunate for me too because of like my postpartum anxiety. I think doing both formula and breastfeeding would have been a lot easier for me. But because I put this like unrealistic expectation on myself, like you're going to breastfeed no matter if it hurts. Like it was to the point where I was pumping blood. Like I kid you not, like my nipples were cracked to the point where I was pumping blood.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so let me ask, why did you feel like you had, like, why were you putting so much pressure on yourself?
I don't know.
Okay.
It's like and this is, it's a good thing, a good quality about me, but it's also a bad thing. Like when I'm set on something, like I'm going to do it, like regardless of what, of anything.
Why do you think that is though? Why do you think that as us women, we're like, we want to breastfeed? Because I haven't touched formula. I don't want to. I know that it's going to be okay if he does formula, but I don't want to. Like, I don't want to. I want to give him what's best for him, which is my milk, and not do formula. But I know also it's not a bad thing. But why?
I think it's just like somewhere along the lines of, especially social media, that's a big pressure too. And it's like, if you take, and it's not the easy way, I feel like that's really like construed, but it's like if you don't do what's best or what's natural, you're not doing the best for your child. And in my opinion, and I know a lot of people would agree with this, what's best for your child is a healthy mom.
Mm-hmm.
And if that
Right,
means
good,
giving your
good.
child a bottle of formula because
Mhm.
you're exhausted and you can't pump,
Mm-hmm.
then that's what it is. Like, your child is going to benefit so much more than seeing you happy and not resentful or not like exhausted or depressed or anxious. They're going to benefit from knowing that you're rested and that's
good.
what your
I
child's
like how
going to
you said that.
benefit most
Yeah,
from.
yeah. To ask you is, what is your favorite quality in Tony as a father that you see?
I really like how Tony is very hands-on with Snow. Like, he's not afraid to like get on the floor and play with her, and he's just really like gentle and sweet with her. And I always knew, like, it's so weird because everyone thought I was having a boy, but he always knew we were having a girl.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like the perfect girl dad. Like, he's just so gentle
Yeah.
and like. They have their own little language together. They like squeak at each other. I don't know, it's really weird, but they go, ee!
Yeah.
They like squeak at each other like little mouses. It's really cute.
Yeah.
But a really good quality that he has is he knows that like early childhood is like my expertise.
Mm-hmm.
So when I like tell him things like, okay, like let's do X, Y, and Z because it's going to help her development this way, or I think we should implement this. Like, he's open and he applies it in his parenting, and I think that's important to have a partner who's willing to be on the same page with you and to take like what you know and apply it.
Right. Ending questions for you is, what is the greatest wish for your child?
I think my greatest wish is just like, I want her to just be herself, like no matter what that means. Like, if she wants to be like a soccer player, like be a soccer player.
Right.
If you want to be a ballerina, be a ballerina. If you want to be a skateboard, like whatever she wants to do,
Yes.
like, I'm gonna support her. Like, if she's not the greatest in school, but she's amazing in something else, like I'm gonna support her and meet her like wherever she is.
Good.
And like, I want her to know that like I'm never going to try to put her like shove her in a box.
Right.
I want her to be like unapologetically her, and like I always got her back no matter what.
Yeah,
And of
yeah.
course, like, I'm her mom first, but I'm also like her biggest supporter and cheerleader.
Good.
So
Good.
yeah.
All right. So my last thing is there any advice that you'd like to share with other moms out there, or anything else we missed that you feel would be helpful or beneficial to other moms? Maybe other moms that are a current mom, or moms that are, or women that are looking to become a mom.
I think, can I do two separate
Right,
answers? Okay, so for people who are moms already, I think just give yourself grace and be gentle. Like, it's so hard. Like, motherhood, like, even if you have the perfect ideal situation, like you have help, you have an easy baby, like, it's hard. Like, no matter your situation, if you're a stay-at-home mom, it's hard. If you work part-time, it's hard. If you're full-time, it's hard. Like, motherhood is so hard, just in its natural state. And like, when we put all these unrealistic expectations and criticize ourselves and look on Instagram and scroll and see these like picture-perfect families and are like, why am I not happy? Like, why don't I feel like this?
Right.
It's like, because this SHIT is hard. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like, just give yourself grace.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember who it was. A mom gave me advice, and I think it was my lactation nurse, because she has given me so many words of wisdom.
Right.
But she told me, the days are long, but the years are short. And it's just so true. Like, there's days where I'm looking at the clock and I'm like, is it bedtime yet? And then you blink and you have a 2-year-old.
Right.
And I'm like, I literally remembered bringing home from the hospital and like crying because I didn't know how I was going to take care of you.
Yeah.
And now she's talking and singing and then for people who are wishing to be mothers, I think, I wanted to be a mom so bad, and I always knew I was called to be a mom.
Yeah.
But I think the thing that I didn't realize was how hard it was, and how it's like not all that meets the eye. And that's not to say like, obviously, like, I love, Snow and everything, but I wish that I would have really just like been in the moment when I was like, didn't have a child and could get up and go, or could take a nap when I wanted to take a nap. I can't do any of that now, and I'm blessed, and I wouldn't change my family for the world, but it's like it's hard.
Right.
And just enjoy those quiet moments,
Right.
and the time will come when
Right.
you have to have Baby Shark playing on repeat. So, just things aren't
Listen
always
to your booty poppy movie
Yes.
right now because it won't last.
It will not last. If I'm watching something or playing something,
Yeah.
Snow, Baby Shark, like I have to change it. Like she runs my
Right.
whole life.
Right, and I try to becoming a stepmom. How was your experience becoming a stepmom?
So with Olivia, it was an adjustment. It really was, because I had just turned 22, and I was just super young and wanting to go out still,
Right.
but at the same time, I wanted to be mature for Chris and for her,
Mhm.
and then her mom Cassie,
Mm-hmm.
just kind of adjusting to all of that and how all of us kind of work and whatnot. So it was challenging. It was
Yeah.
definitely challenging. Her and I did not hit it off right away.
Yeah.
I feel like, not gonna lie, there was some immaturity, I think, on my end,
Yeah.
on both ends,
Right,
on
right.
everywhere, because we're all just learning to adjust.
Mhm.
But luckily, we've totally made our way after all this time.
Good,
So
good,
It's
yeah.
made it good. Just growing up and seeing, because I've always, my mom has always been so cordial with my biological father and stuff like that. I don't have a relationship with him, but I always saw how she was, and I always thought it was just so mature
Mhm.
and just
Good.
classy to just have that kind of conversation with him. Rather, I've seen some drama between
Yeah.
especially if someone else comes into the picture, jealousy, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I knew that I wanted to set a really good example
Good.
for her,
Yeah.
and just show her that it doesn't have to be drama.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And again, like you were saying, that shows maturity too.
Yeah.
I think also too, you're thinking, I love this man and I want a relationship with him. Therefore, I need to, learn to accept the circumstance, right?
Yeah.
Too. So,
And we've all gotten on the same page of it's about Olivia.
Right,
Like
good.
you said,
Yeah.
it's as long as she's happy, that's what we're gonna do to get there.
Yeah.
And so.
yeah.
yeah,
And I'm
it's been
glad
great.
that you kind of had a similar experience growing up. So, and your mom showed you a great example, and you've just been able to take that and say, okay, I want the same for the relationship that I'm into. So I give kudos to your mom for just being that light
Yeah.
for you too, and setting a great example,
Yeah.
as I think moms should.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not always easy. I'm sure we all have those days, but the fact that she was just able to be a good example in that light. Because look at where your footsteps led to being in a relationship with a
Yeah.
man that already had a child, and then you having to learn that. But you had, again, a good example of that.
And my stepdad too. He came into my life right around 8, 9.
Oh, okay.
And so he was just an amazing example as well. He was so loving, never pushy of you have to call me dad, or
Good.
you have to be you have to hug me, or be just certain things
Yeah.
where it's he let all of it naturally happen.
Mhm.
And I always felt his support and love and just
Good.
no judgment
Yeah.
ever. I always
Good.
felt safe.
Nice.
And too, he had to deal with, my little brother's dad, and because
Mhm.
I was married a few times,
Mhm.
so he's had to be on the sidelines too, kind of seeing how my mom's dealing with,
Mhm.
every these other men too,
Yeah.
and so just seeing how he handled it as well,
Yeah.
just having 2 great role models
Yes.
of what great co-parenting
Yeah.
should be.
Good.
So,
Yeah.
I think the most rewarding thing, honestly, is that we've figured it out. We've
Mhm.
figured out what works for us as co-parents. We figured out on how to keep her a happy, healthy little girl,
Mhm.
and we hear it constantly, from her teachers, from
That's
other
good.
just adults, our coworkers, stuff like that, on how respectful, how polite, how
Mhm.
sweet, how well-mannered, well-spoken, just so many different things about her, and
Mhm.
people saying whatever you guys are doing, keep it up, and it's
Mhm.
just, there's so much criticism out there, and then not only that, but seeing how happy our girl is,
Mhm.
all of that, just all the hard work,
Yeah.
everything is just thank God it's
Yeah.
paying off,
Right, right,
and
yeah,
that we're
yeah.
not going through all this stress for nothing, and headaches and whatnot. So I think that's the biggest thing, is just learning to connect with her and find out just how to keep her happy.
Yeah. What do you feel, what qualities make for a good mom?
I definitely think everyone has different ideas of
Mhm.
what that is.
Mhm.
Mine is just listening, being supportive, giving feedback, of course. I think if they're older and they're kids, just going for it and getting your hands dirty, getting in there with them.
Yeah.
Two, I think being very transparent with your kid. You know, like I think it's okay to, like, at a certain age to start explaining to your child, like, if you're having a rough day and you're feeling a certain way and you don't have that energy to like I'm sorry, I just need to go have a moment for myself.
Right, that's
I'm not
good.
mad at you. This has nothing to do with you. You know, mom just feels a certain way. And I think, learning to be very transparent and and talking about things that are going on and stuff.
Right. What has been the difference as far as you remember having a child almost 11 years ago?
But to be honest, it was like starting all over again. It's just like, how do I hold the baby? It was such a huge gap. It's like as cheesy as it sounds, like I literally and figuratively became a mom again.
Yeah.
A new mom. Because it's like I had to learn everything over again. Because when I had my oldest, when I had Julian, I was, young myself. I was barely 20, 21. And now that I'm a little older and I had Margot, it's a little different, but it's, again, starting over again. I'm a new mom again. I'm learning everything again. It's a whole new journey all over again.
Right. When you were 21, can you kind of take me back to how it was being a young mom, having a child for the first time? Do you remember all that?
It was. I don't want to say I felt like I missed out on things, but I did have those moments. But looking back at it, I still wouldn't change any of it.
Right.
I see my son, and obviously I don't regret anything that happened. But I do have those moments where, especially it was when I turned 21, so I had a newborn at home, and my sister would take off with my ID, so I was just kind of, home doing the whole mom thing. But that is nothing compared to, being a mother and that relationship and that whole, I wouldn't trade anything, any of that.
What is your favorite quality in your husband as a father? What do you see that you love? What do you adore that he may do for your children? He's a funny guy, so I don't know if that's why you're laughing, but...
Well, he's just a big kid himself.
Yeah.
So I think that's always that whole heartburst is when you see them interact with your kids and the silliness and the jokes and the horseplay.
Yeah.
And I think that's always the most rewarding, and how much fun they're having.
Yeah. That's
with
awesome.
Dad.
Yeah.
Margot, I did have that. It was the first few weeks. I think it was just because my milk hadn't come in, and I was just she wouldn't sleep, and I was totally exhausted, and I literally would just kind of put her in her crib and just cry because I didn't know what to do, and I just had that whole, I'm like, oh my God, is this postpartum depression? What's going on with me? But I experienced that, with Mark, with my second. So that was a huge difference from, when I was a mom, younger with Julian, and then being a mom again for the second time.
Was your pregnancy planned?
It was not planned.
Not planned?
No.
How did you find out? Or what were you doing? And let's run down the day.
It was actually New Year's Eve when I found out.
New Year's Eve? Were you drinking?
No, I felt sick.
Oh, okay.
I felt sick, and in December I started feeling sick, just nauseous at times, and at that point I just thought it was the food because I was in Mexico.
Oh, okay.
But when I came back, I still felt sick, so then I thought, okay, maybe I should, take a pregnancy test.
That's the first thing that came to mind?
Yes.
You wasn't I might have the stomach flu or anything?
No, because at that point it was January, and then I would never keep track of my menstrual cycles. So, however, when I came back, I realized, I didn't have my menstrual cycle in December.
Yeah.
It was just spotting.
Oh, okay.
So then I figured didn't think I was going to be pregnant. And so I took it New Year's Eve, and sure enough, I was pregnant. I was scared. I was scared more than anything.
Really? What were you afraid of?
Well, I come from really, I don't want to say Mexican, but my parents are very traditional,
Okay.
and so I was more afraid of that.
Like telling them?
Telling
Yeah.
them, telling my dad,
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah.
Just because he had this expectation of me, first you get married,
Yeah.
you end up forming your family.
Yeah.
And so I was afraid of that. And also, just being a mom
Yeah.
in general, becoming
Yeah.
a mother.
Yeah.
It's
scary,
It's
right?
a nice feeling, but it was scary. More
Yeah.
than
Well, because do you feel like you've experienced any challenges as a mom?
with him, like in terms of taking care of him and with being responsible for him, no.
Mm-hmm.
I've experienced challenges within myself, as, for example, with my time management.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
It was very hard for me to adjust to that and realize that I can't take a long time doing my makeup now.
Yeah.
I can't take a long time in the shower as I did before.
Even to getting out of the house, right?
Right,
It's like,
just to get out of the
Yeah,
house, exactly. I have to make sure that everything's packed.
Yeah.
And really, again, try to go back to that time management. Like, okay,
Yeah.
if I have to leave by this time, I
Yeah.
have to make sure that I get up at this time
Yeah.
and do this and do that and pack his things.
yeah.
So I think that's what's been more challenging.
No,
for me.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, but other than that, with him,
Yeah.
I think
Good. I'm happy. So my next question is, how hard was the process to becoming a surrogate mom?
Okay, it was easy and hard all at the same time. The beginning process, signing up, picking an agency, signing up, that part was easy. They asked general information, and I got an email back within an hour. Everything in between, then became a little hard, and then COVID prolonged that process because they do a medical evaluation, psych evaluation. They come into the home to make sure you live in a good environment. Lots of questions, super personal, and I thought I did all my research, and even some questions I was like, I didn't think about this.
Oh, wow.
So then it takes me a minute,
Yeah.
to get an answer. And
Yeah.
So that part took a while. Again, COVID made it longer,
Yeah.
but yeah, the middle process was long. Even when I was filling out the application, I guess it's just not something that crossed my mind, but even something like, do you want to help a married couple? Do you want to help a man and a woman who are not married? Do you want to help just a single mom? Just and even single dad, I was like, oh, there's single dads out there.
Yeah.
It's just not something that crossed my mind.
If you don't mind me asking, did you check a box that basically said you would be willing to help
Anybody.
anybody? Yeah.
Anybody, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Some of them took me a second. I mean, to each their own.
Yeah.
I don't judge.
Yeah.
Again, it wasn't something that crossed my mind. So
Yeah.
when it came about on the
Yeah.
paper, I was like, oh.
Yeah. Yeah. That leads me to my next question. As far as I know you were 17 when you had Emmaus.
Mhm.
Did you experience any postpartum depression?
Looking back now, absolutely. I didn't realize it then. That wasn't something that was talked about with me. Wasn't something I heard of the word, and to be honest, I didn't even know what it meant.
Right. Yeah.
I just knew it was something, women who had children talked about.
Yeah.
Had no idea what it was. At 31, looking back now, I had it, and I had it for a long time. So I'm a little worried
Yeah.
with this baby, but I also think it'll be different because I won't be lacking sleep. I won't be a single mom in this sense.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true. Yeah.
I won't have a baby waking me up at night.
Yeah.
I think it'll be more like the body stuff,
Yeah.
having to deal with that. But
Next question for you is, do you have a relationship with the parents?
I do. I met them a year ago via Zoom because they're not from this country. So we had what they call a match meeting. So after I filled out the application, they filled out one. The agencies match us based on our questions. Especially for me, I was a Christian and would like some, a family with some sort of faith-based lifestyle. And so, they're not going to pair me with an atheist, because then God forbid this atheist is I don't want you listening to worship music.
Yeah.
You you never know how
Yeah.
parents will be. So they matched us, and then we met via Zoom with their translator because, they speak English, but it's a little choppy.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously with my surrogate coordinator, who they asked all the questions really, we just answered.
Yeah.
Kind of got a feel for each other. Everything from like, what kind of food do I eat? What do they do for a living and for fun, vice versa. And then we had 24 hours to decide if this was the intended parents we wanted or I wanted, and vice versa, if this was a surrogate they wanted. And I just kind of knew right away.
And so my first question for you is, what has been the most rewarding thing about being a mom?
It's funny. I read over your questions,
Mhm.
so I might cry. I'm also super hormonal. So, probably. Whoa. And then you're sitting there. Probably just seeing like the young man he's becoming.
Yeah.
I mean, you talked about he's super helpful. He's
Yeah.
super loving and caring. And just kind of knowing that even though I had like a rough patch
Mhm.
in the beginning, just figuring out how to be a mom,
Yeah.
like my fear was that would affect him,
Mhm.
and I don't think it has.
No.
Like I think he's done really great.
Yeah.
I know having like super supportive family on my side
Mhm.
and your side has helped.
Mm-hmm.
But just seeing like
Mhm.
the loving person he is,
Yeah.
like super sassy at times, but overall loving,
Yeah.
caring, cares about others,
Yeah.
wants to help others.
Yeah.
And then that was something, I'm kind of going back to surrogacy when people are like, what about Emmaus? I'm like, but if you knew his heart and
Mhm.
like how he cares for
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
and wants to help people, like
Mm-hmm.
it's the same thing.
Yeah, and I think you're setting that good example, and I think that he is shaped to the man he is because of the examples he has in his life too.
Yeah.
And I totally forgot to ask that question, but yeah, I wanted to know how if you've talked to Emmaus about it and if it's impacted him in any way, or do you feel like he's 100% supportive of it? And
Yeah.
and I think he's only human to to feel the way he has. So I kind of wanted to ask that. I know you touched
Yeah.
on it. How does he feel about it?
I
from what
definitely
you know?
talked to him about it way before, and I
Mhm.
think when the thought first came to mind for me, he was still really young, so he didn't, as anybody, who doesn't understand it, it's just because they don't know.
Yeah.
So I think even in those years where I brushed it off or it wasn't in God's timing,
Yeah.
I think it ended up being perfect timing for him as well. And then I've kept him involved from the beginning.
Yeah.
Everything has been, like, he knows the intended parents.
Yeah.
I talked to him about what's happening, especially in the beginning process, like, oh, this is what they're going to do, this is what they're going to talk about, this is who they are,
Yeah.
this is why they want a baby. And then my worry for him was the attachment, because we don't keep this baby.
Yeah.
I'm fully aware and
Mhm.
okay with it, but then I know he wants siblings, but I'm like, it's just not our time yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he even talked about that, like, on the drive here. I guess he had talked to Frankie about it too, where he does wish, like, I wish I had a sibling on your side.
Yeah.
Then I just kind of reminded him, I was like, it'll happen soon. I was like, but you have to realize too, at this point,
Mhm.
it would be like him and Aria, not
Yeah.
him and Jasleen, who are close in age. So I told him, I was like, a baby will come eventually.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
My last and final question for you is, what is the greatest wish that you have for Emmaus?
Ooh. He does, or at least tries, everything he dreams of. I think I was too afraid to, and I learned way later, that it can still be done.
Yeah.
But anything he dreams or wants,
Mhm.
like, I know his dad and, Lisi have his back, I have his back.
Yeah.
Just to not be afraid to do it, and to do the things we didn't get to do.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
even Lisi, because, she had Jazz pretty young, too,
Yeah.
so, it took us a few years to get
Yeah.
back into our footings, but
Yeah.
for him, and he talks about it now, and I know you and Michael both have been a great help as far as, like, he talks about school. He's doing really well in school.
Mhm.
He's like, he
Yeah.
teases me, like, I'm going to go to high school, and then I'm going to graduate college, and then I'm going to be a wife, but, like, even the thought of, like, I'm going to go to college,
Yeah.
like, that's in his mind.
Yes,
With
yeah.
whether it's in the back of his mind, but
Yeah.
it's there. Like,
Yeah.
that was never a thought
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah.
So yeah, for him to just do what he wants to do, and if it means you know, not having a 9-to-5 job because there are all these creative outlets, then let's do that.
Yeah.
Let's figure it out for you.
What has been the most rewarding thing about being a mom?
I think with that, I think it's just the unconditional love. I think that it's a love different from everything else. You know, you have a love from your parents and that love from your husband, but there's nothing like when you're having like a bad day and you just feel like nothing is going right and, you know, nothing's going to change that. And they give you a little hug or a little kiss, and it's just like, it's like that sense of healing that they give you. It's crazy.
Yeah.
You know, they can drive you insane, but at the same time, it's like, you need that.
What's been the most challenging thing about being a mom?
I think the most challenging thing has been just finding a balance between everything. I think a balance between home and work and your kids and just, you know, doing things for yourself, doing things for your kids. There's just so much you
Making
have
time
to
for
do.
your husband.
Exactly,
right,
your husband, and just spending time with him. And, you know, it's like less date nights because, you know, you got the kids and who's going to watch them and things like that. Or even like just me time alone. It's like you feel like that comes last because your kids come first. But that's not always true in a sense. I think it's just learning to find that balance between having something for myself, having time with my husband, having time with my kids. And
did you feel that you went through postpartum with both of your children? Was it different, and how have you been able to cope with that?
It was different. I think with my daughter, I had it, but I just didn't know how to deal with it. I think because it's not talked about so much, you kind of like feel like there's something wrong with you. You're like, okay, why am I sad? I just had a baby. I'm not supposed to feel this way. I'm supposed to be happy. Everyone's always happy, you know? And I don't feel like a lot of people talk about it. So, like, you know, my mom didn't talk to me about it. It was kind of just, when it came, she did. But before that, I had never really heard about it.
Everyone hypes you up, right? Like, you're going to have so much fun with this child. And
you're going to love them, and they're going to love you, and everything's just going to be awesome. You know? Here and there, my mom would be like, you guys were a headache. But, but you know, that's normal. So, I think just that feeling of sadness, I would, like, with my daughter, I would close the blinds. I just would sit in darkness with her. I didn't want to go anywhere, again, because I was breastfeeding all the time. So she didn't drink the bottle, so I didn't want to go anywhere and kind of like hassle. I would just rather stay in the room and like take care of her.
It's easier. It's easier just to do that.
And I had like a paranoia with her. Nobody could watch her. Like I didn't want, not even my parents. I would get so nervous. Like, no one can take care of her like I'm taking care of her. I just don't want her, you know?
No, I don't know what you're saying.
So my husband would be like, you need to let other people help you. You need to let other people help you. You can't put it all on yourself. And it took a long time for me to get that through my head. But once I did, obviously, it got a lot better. With my son, it was weird. It came, and then I'm like, oh, I'm not going to feel this way again. I know what it was like. I'm not going to do it to myself. So I kind of fought it, and it went away, and then it's weird because I didn't know. I found this out later that you can get it way later after you have them. So, like, about a year later is when it really hit me. I think I was just, like, trying to find that balance with the second kid, and I used to coach, so I gave up coaching because I just didn't know how I was going to be able to be there for my kids and then and you know, I worked, so I would go home, go to work, then come back to the coaching, then go home to the kids. And before it was just Layla, so I just brought her around everywhere with me. But
probably it's just much, it probably is just a little bit more harder with, you know, having two. Like, I couldn't imagine. Like, one is just a lot right now. So, I mean, we definitely want to have a second, but that is like 2 years from now.
It's so crazy. It's just that it's a whole other world. Like, I thought it was hard with my daughter, but, you know, she was going to, like, my dance practices since she was 3 weeks old.
Wow.
She was there with me. I would breastfeed her at practice. The girls would totally
Yeah.
understand. They were fine. I mean, I would cover myself because
Yeah.
I'm out of school, but you know, it
Yeah.
was a little bit easier with her. And she's really calm, so she would just sit there and watch. And my son is just like a fireball. He just doesn't stop. So it's like,
Yeah.
I'm not going to be able to handle this and have both of them at my practices. And, you know,
Right.
so
So did you stop then doing the coaching?
I did.
Oh, okay.
I
Was
did.
that hard?
It was. I didn't think it was going to be hard. I thought, like, okay, it's time.
Yeah.
It's time to just take a step back. I've been doing it for a while. It's, you know, I need to focus on my kids. I think that's what my main goal was. But I didn't realize that by doing that, it kind of like took something away from myself, you know? I felt sad. It was just something that I was really passionate about.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then it's weird because, you know, they're high school girls and you're like, oh, they're a headache sometimes, but they are amazing. Like, they give you this sense of like accomplishment and feeling, and like when you see them like their faces light up because they have the same passion that you did.
Right,
you know, it's
right.
like you played volleyball. Imagine, you know,
Oh
watching
yeah,
the
like
girls
I miss that so much. I
yeah,
can
and
only
watching
imagine.
them succeed and
Right.
grow and all that. So it gives you like this kind of fulfillment and that you're doing something right.
Right.
And then you just don't, you know, with being a mom, you don't see it until later.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you're just like, oh, okay, you know, am I doing it? Am I doing something right? I don't know what I'm doing. And then, yeah, so I think that when I took that away from myself with my son, it was hard. I think that that's what brought me happiness a lot of the time, and I didn't realize it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I was just like, oh, I gave up everything. I gave up everything
Yeah.
so that I could be here, but then I don't know what I'm doing here, you
Right,
know, with
right,
two kids. I'm a hot
right.
mess. Am I being a decent mom?
Right. Yeah.
You just get hard on yourself. And then I think a lot that has to do with postpartum too is just your body, it changes. And I mean, you've seen that my posts on social media, it's like you have to learn to love your new body. And it's rough because
Yeah.
you just want to look like yourself again.
Right.
You want to feel like yourself. You want to be confident and wear your old clothes and you know,
Yeah.
and you see like on social media other people just bounce back.
Right.
And
right.
then you're
Yeah.
like, why am I not bouncing back?
Right. What is your favorite quality in your husband? Being a father.
Yeah. I would say his patience. He's just really calm all the time. And I'm so glad because that's how we find our balance. Because
Yeah.
I'm not at all.
I'm the crazy
yeah,
one, too.
I'm the crazy one. So he's just and he's just a good dad.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. There's just so many qualities that go into that. He's there for them. He, you know, he loves them. I love like watching them go outside and
Right,
play,
right.
or even just like, you know, when they're in the newborn stage and they're holding him.
Yeah.
It's just that like it gives you this happiness,
Right.
this
a comfort
joy.
in
Yes.
that, like, I think every young woman, every woman too wants a husband that's going to nurture their children.
Yeah.
Right? We are, as women, are natural nurturers, but when you have your significant other, just embrace that. I'm not saying that no father does, but it is rewarding just to see that your husband can show that same love.
Yeah, and then at the end of the day, it's like, you know, I say it all the time that he's gonna be what my daughter looks for in a husband one day.
Right.
You know, so they have to
love
set
that.
that example.
Yes.
And I think he does. You know, he just loves her. He shows her her worth, and I love that.
Good,
So.
good. One of my closing questions to you is there any advice that you'd like to share with other moms out there, or anything else we missed that you would like them to know when they want to become a mom, as they're going through motherhood?
I think just not to be so hard on yourself. Not to be so hard on yourself. To understand that every pregnancy is different. Every, you know, postpartum journey is different. With postpartum depression, if you're just feeling sad, just reach out to people.
Right.
There are people who understand and who can help you and who feel the same way you're feeling or have felt the same way you're feeling, so you know you're not alone in all of it. And it's just at the end of the day, just you're human.
Right.
Don't be so hard on yourself.
Right.
We were told would never grow old here in Wichita. We were down by the river all through the night, watching the stars and the city lights. Right from the start, said we never grow apart, dear Wichita. You wanted me to know